Okay, let's look at an introduction to odds and bookmaking. This applies to Australia as throughout the whole world. Now, basic decimal odds. Let's take a look at a calculation of that. Let's look at the conversion between odds and percentage probabilities, and let's look at how you can potentially profit from inaccurate odds. I've made this video today because I'm concerned with the number of people out there, punters, who genuinely think they can find opportunities to profit from inaccurate odds presented by different bookmakers, and more importantly, they think that they can outsmart the market of bookmakers. I think that that's something that needs to be looked at. So, the NRL Grand Final 2021. This is just an example case, but here in Australia, right now, we're looking next week at a grand final showdown between the Penrith Panthers and the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The odds that are given by one major bookmaker here in Australia, in fact, it's probably the most prolific online bookmaker that you can find, gives the decimal odd of 1.68 for the Penrith Panthers and the South Sydney Rabbitohs 2.25. That means in terms of what the bookmakers are predicting, they're saying that the Penrith Panthers are the obvious favourite and the South Sydney Rabbitohs not so much. Let's take a look now at how we can rationalise what a percentage probability is and how that relates to these decimal odds. A coin toss serves as the perfect illustration. There's a 50-50 chance between heads and tails. So to express that as a percentage probability, it's simply 50% chance. Now, how would you express the odds, or how would you place or create a situation where there is a 50-50 chance for two punters to bet and for the bookmaker to make a 0% profit off a situation where a coin is tossed? Now, to calculate that, it's simply what we call the reciprocal of the percentage probability. So it's 1 divided by the percentage probability, and that in that case is equal to 2. So if you had two punters and they were both putting in, let's say, $100 betting on a heads and betting on a tails, the total sum of money in that bet is $200. The coin is then flipped and it turns out to be a heads. So one of the punters, the punter who bet on the heads, gets $200 back, and the other punter gets nothing back. And in that case as well, the bookmaker makes nothing. It's a simple situation. So in both cases, a heads has an odd of 2 and a tails has an odd of 2. Okay, going back to our example earlier, let's get back to the NRL Grand Final. Now the Penrith Panthers have a 1.68 odd that's produced by the bookmaker. Now in order to convert that back to a percentage probability to analyse what the percentage probability between the two teams is, it's just like the first case where the coin was tossed. It's a 1 over 1.68. Or in other words, it's the reciprocal of the decimal expressed odd. Now in that case, we can see that the percentage chance of the Penrith Panthers winning the NRL Grand Final 2021 is 59.52% chance. In the case of the South Sydney Rabbitohs, the decimal probability is 2.25, and the reciprocal of that is 44.44% chance of winning. Looking at these two numbers together, you can see, just like in the former case, where it was expressed as a decimal odd, the Penrith Panthers are the obvious favourite, and the South Sydney Rabbitohs not so much. But when you look closer, you can see that the sum of the percentage probability of the two teams works out to be 103%, or 103.96%. What that is simply nothing wrong. It's a case where the bookmaker has a margin of 3.96%. In the case that it was worth 100%, in the case that Penrith Panthers were at 60% probability and the South Sydney Rabbitohs was a 40% probability, there would be no profit to make. This is how bookmakers make their cut. Now let's look at the perfect game, or in this case, the perfect gamble. Like I just mentioned, if Team A had a 60% chance of winning and Team B has a 40% chance of winning, that would come to a sum total of 100% chance. And that's the ideal world because it's what we call a zero profit situation. Now, if we calculate the odds according to the percentage probability, we work out as a reciprocal of the percentage probability, the probability odds for Team A is 1.67, and for Team B, it's 2.5. This is a very simple calculation. You can do it yourself. So in order to break even and earn back your $100 in either case, Team A or Team B winning, you'll have to put a $59.88 bet on Team A, and you'll have to put a $40 bet on Team B. And proportionately, if Team A won, you'd receive a $100 return. That's the $59.88 bet with the 1.67 odds. But obviously in this case, because they're exclusive situations, Team B would have been a $40 bet gone wrong. In other words, you wouldn't win both unless Team A and Team B both tied or broke even in terms of the outcome. There was a draw between the two teams, and that's a situation we're not covering today. Team B, alternatively, the $40 bet at the the 2.5 probability odds, or what we like to say $2.50 for every dollar in bet, receives back $100. And that $100 basically compensates for the other bet, the $59.88 that was bet on the team that never returned anything, because obviously the Team A bet went to waste. So let's look at a situation where we can actually make a profit. Team A, in a situation where you can profit, given that the percentage probability is different between, let's say, two different bookmakers in different countries who are covering the same game, international opportunities. There are all sorts of opportunities that investors can really tackle and they can take on. Let's say that one bookmaker is giving a percentage probability chance of Team A winning a game. They can give that a 55% chance of winning. Okay, in that situation, there'd be a 45% chance given to Team B, or actually even more, because they have to make their cut. Let's say it's 46-47%. Now, in that one case where Team A was given 55% by one bookmaker, and you were also simultaneously able to find an alternate bet by another bookmaker on Team B, and they gave a 40% probability, then your total probability sum will be 95%. This is the situation where you can actually profit. Let's take a look. In the profitable scenario, you can see, and I'm not going to go back over the calculation, but the odds for Team A would be 1.82, and the odds for Team B would be 2.5. And just to cover it again, for every dollar bet on Team A, you'll get $1.82 back, and every dollar in bet on Team B, you'd get $2.50 back. By the way, if you are considering international markets, please keep in mind that currency risk and translation risk is something you need to consider as well. Now, how would you put $100 on a bet between Team A and Team B to still profit? In this case, it's not actually $100 divided by the odd of Team A, and the same for Team B. It's actually $100 times 1.025. Now, if we go back, you'll see that there's a 95% total probability chance between the two. And if you were to put the 5% difference between Team A and Team B and divided them equally, you would see that that would work out to be 2.5%. So half of the 5 is 2.5. And that works out to be basically $56.32 for Team A. And for Team B, your bet would be $41. Now, in the case that Team A was the successful winner of this game or this competition, whatever you're betting on, you'd receive a total of $102.50. And that's a 2.5% return. Obviously, in the case of Team B, that bet went to waste and $41 thrown away. Now, because they're separately exclusive, I'll go back over again. You'll receive $102.50 back in the case of Team B, which is also a 2.5% return. So if we look back at the original case where the sum of the percentage probabilities added up to 95%, you can only really profit by 2.5%. Okay, what have we learned from today? Lesson 1, keep in mind that bookmakers always profit. There may appear to be a situation where you can always bet on the favorite or always bet on the unfavorite or try to take advantage of discrepancies between quoted decimal odds between two bookmakers or multi-market odds or international opportunities. But as a general rule, just remember that bookmakers aren't in the business of losing money. Lesson 2. In the rare case that there is a discrepancy and the opportunity to profit, please investigate whether it's genuinely worth it. How much money are you going to make in terms of dollars and cents from a discrepancy between two bookmakers' odds on two different teams, or even in the case of 3 or more teams? And you need to know that in the case of NRL odds or two-team odds, they're generally the least profitable opportunities for bookmakers to make money. And lesson 3 is remember that betting is always gambling, and you should try at least to refrain from gambling as much as you can, because ultimately there is someone making money and normally it's not the punters. Please like and subscribe to my channel so I can continue creating content and making more videos for all you guys out there in YouTube land. Thanks.